All right, we're live, but we're gonna let it breathe just for a moment. It is a podcast featuring yours truly, so of course we're at least a couple of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes late. You know how it goes. But welcome in everybody. This is the Dove Valley Deep Divers right here, and I am your host for tonight, Chad Jensen. With me is Erick Trickel, the senior analyst at Mile High Huddle, and as you can tell, this is a cat that really embraces the Christmas spirit, and I love it. Eric, you're kind of a Christmas guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care for Thanksgiving. Um, and then I mean, November 1st is when we typically put the tree up. Christmas just has always been a big thing in my family. And then even a couple of years ago, I mean, we lost my grandmother on Christmas, and she's the one who helped like make Christmas such a big deal for me. So yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily my favorite holiday, but it's my favorite time of year. I absolutely love this time of year and all that, and just always get to be jolly and merry.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal time of year too. I love it too. But you might never guess this. You've met my dad. You've met the one and only Mark Jensen. He you maybe would never guess if you do meet my dad that like Christmas is the bomb.com, but he loves Christmas. The only music I ever hear him listen to is Christmas music, and not always, Eric, during Christmas season. And if you thought Clark Griswold went off the chain trying to decorate the exterior and grounds of his home for Christmas, you have to see my dad's house one of these days. But yeah, Christmas season, it's awesome. You know, when you have a bunch of little kids like I do, or kids, uh, it can become very hustle bustle, and there's so much stuff to do. So I have to keep myself focused and remembering what it's all about in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, the we only have the one bug, and it's always so exciting. She's getting really excited. The advent calendars are always a big thing. But this year we have one that is a every night it's like a little story of Santa prepping and everything, and she absolutely loves it. And just the excitement from her is so contagious. Um, and just resparks that childhood
Yeah,
magic in me even a little bit.
it's awesome, dude. Couple of quick hellos, and then we're going to get into some content, some topics here tonight. David was officially the first, pardon me, comment on YouTube tonight. So welcome, thank you, Merry Christmas, right back at you, David. We got the Papa Bear throwing down some comments, giving Merry Christmas and good tidings, goodwill to men, and all that good stuff. 10-7, pardon me, he's saying 10-7. Good to see you, David. Woofy's in the house. What's going on, big dog? Mark, Malcolm's there. From Homer, he's in Homer. Some weird stuff happens in Homer. I've gone down that rabbit hole. I don't know about you, but uh, and even on YouTube, or on pardon me, Facebook, we got the Ronk checking in with some big boy stars. So thank you, Mike. So good to see you. One of our great ambassadors of MHH and all of Broncos country. Love it. Good to see you. Eric, yeah, right back at you, big dog. Merry Christmas. So first things first, we'll get into some matchups, some keys, and all that stuff. But I just wanted to, for those who may have missed it, uh, the injury report for Broncos-Patriots. So first of all, Nick Bonito out. Two other Broncos ruled out, Eric, both of which are technically IR guys, right? They started the clock on Greg Dulcich. They started it on Alex Palczewski, whoever it is. But neither has been actually activated to the roster, so it's no skin off the team's teeth in terms of missing something they've had. It would be nice to have them available, but those are the main takeaways for the Broncos. For the Patriots, though, Eric, and this is where I wanted to get your thoughts. They're going to be without three of their, well, first of all, they could be without three of their five leading tacklers because Jabril Peppers, the safety, ruled out. And then then of course their two linebackers, Bentley and Tavai, they're questionable. They'll probably play, but they're questionable. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
I mean, every week I do the biggest threat article on both sides of the ball. When I pulled up the Patriots injury report, it's a big reason why I ended up going the way I did and kind of taking the cheap way out a little bit with it. Hunter Henry on the offensive side of the ball, he's questionable, but Jabril Peppers being out is a huge loss for this defense. And then if they don't get some of these other guys on this defense able to play, Christian Barmore, Tavai, and Fernie Jennings, and then Bentley as well. Like those are some key pieces, starters, rotational pieces, even on the defensive side of the ball for them. And this is an outstanding defense. Don't let the 3-1 record fool you. The Patriots defense has been great all year. It's one of the best rushing defenses, and they've suffered multiple injuries to some big time guys, and they've still managed to play. But this late in the season, it's getting harder to replace them. Jabril Peppers, that's the one guy that's like kind of like a breath of relief a little bit that he won't be in this game, because he's been playing some really good football this season.
Yes. How big of a hit is not having Smith-Schuster and, of course, the running back in your mind, Ramondre Stevenson? How fortuitous is that for the Broncos? Does it make that big of a difference?
I mean, they're both big. They're both sizable losses. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, he's the primary backup, and I think they also use Kevin Harris. Ramondre Stevenson, he's missed at least last week as well against the Patriots as he's dealing with this knee injury, right? Or ankle injury, sorry.
Ankle,
and
yeah.
then Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, he's just a weapon that on offense that can be utilized in a certain way to attack this Broncos defense. And with where the Broncos' strengths are on defense, missing a weapon like that, I mean, it hurts. They can make up for it a little bit, but they're a team that has not had the best receiver core all season. So, and Juju Smith-Schuster is basically their top guy. So it's definitely, beneficial for the Broncos that he'll be out.
This is one of those games where, like you wrote about this in your article today, Eric, about how it's kind of a strength versus a strength, right? Like you got the Patriots' phenomenal defense, and especially their rushing defense, going against what the Broncos want to do well each and every week, which is run the ball. Do they always do it well? No. In fact, most of the time they don't do it well, but they stay committed to it at the very least. But this is a game where, you know what, if you can't figure out how to, especially coming off that Lions game where the secondary was getting sliced, diced on the reg, if you can't find a way to make hay against a Patriots offense that is without Schuster, without Stevenson, if you can't figure out how to take Hunter Henry out of this game and just really put the whole weight of this on Bailey Zappi's shoulders, you don't deserve to go to the playoffs. So get out there and like wreck shop, Broncos. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, and I had this conversation a couple weeks ago with someone else, and it's the thing of the Bill Belichick factor as well. Even though this team isn't good, he is still such a good coach that I would never write off any team coached by him. And the way he has his defense playing, I am not expecting this to be a high-scoring game. Obviously, things can happen. Denver could end up, being really lucky in the turnover margins again, giving them extra possessions, being able to put those extra points on the board. That's always possible. Injuries are always a potential factor or a variable that you can't always factor in. I'm not expecting this to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a defensive slugfest, basically where the first one to hit 14 points is probably the winner.
Would you have guessed this, Eric, that because this is something that Zach and we've talked a lot about on our show, that Javonte Williams, it seems like maybe they're overusing him a little bit because the production just doesn't seem to be there. Like he's kind of devolved into a 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of guy. And yet I'm looking at the release that we get from the Broncos. Would you believe that since week 6, Williams has totaled the 5th most big play rushes in the NFL? So he's got 15 of them, which I think that's 10 plus yards, 10 or more yards, right?
So Javonte Williams has always been a boomer bust runner. It's always been 2 yards or less, or basically 5+ yards. And I remember talking about this a lot with Nick his rookie season, even last year before he got hurt. Or to start the season, he was doing a good job of being more consistent, but the burst seems to have taken a hit. His vision hasn't been great, and he hasn't been getting a whole lot of help the last couple of weeks with the run blocking. So it's one of those things of like, I do think they need to cut into his touches and his snap count a little bit, especially when you look at the fact that whenever McLaughlin's on the field, 80% of the time he's going to get targeted or get the ball. Like he plays so few snaps, and it's basically a given, and the Detroit Lions keyed in on him. Whenever he was on the field, they just guessed that he was going to get the ball, basically using the predictability of his usage against the Broncos. This would be a good game to get Jaleel McLaughlin involved more, even if he's not the main target, even if he's not the one carrying the ball, just because you want to throw things off, especially if you're still trying to make a playoff rush or a playoff push.
Absolutely. Guys, we're going to get to some more hellos and whatever's on your mind. By the way, we don't have a ton of time tonight. My fault. Just some stuff going on, family events, this and that. Lance out for tonight. So any burning topics, any questions, supers, anything like that, get it in the chat now, and we'll do our best to get to it before we dip out. But before we get any further into tonight's convo, guys, we got to remind you to do what my family and I did just last night, and that is make Little Caesars part of your game day. They are, of course, Little Caesars, the official pizza sponsor of the NFL. And yesterday, it just hit the spot, so to speak. And I wasn't aware of this till recently because I just like their, I say cheap, but most inexpensive pizza, which is just that $5 hot and ready. You walk in, you can walk out. But my son ordered some, what was it? The pretzel dough pepperoni, and it was killer. So that's now going to be my go-to. So order online during our pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday, and get ready for some football and fun, Eric.
Yeah, choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. Either way, you win. I'm one of the people, I absolutely love pineapple on pizza. I think it goes very well. Last time I had Little Caesars pizza, it happened to be, standard Hawaiian, and it was really good. I mean, it's been a long time since I've had them, but I like Little Caesars pizza quite a bit whenever I get it. We just don't have one where I live. It's solid. It's good quality pizza, and not the most expensive, which is always, nice, especially with the way times are now. It's a lot of bang for your buck and so many good toppings that they have to offer. Their pepperoni's good, the Hawaiian, all sorts of stuff.
All right. Yes, indeed, Michael. Pizza, baby. Let's go. Some hellos here in the chat. Everyone seems to be, and rightly so, in the Christmas spirit. I love it. Kathy, across the pond in Deutschland, checking in. Good to see you. Merry Christmas. Let's see. We got Albert in the house, the Mile High Duchy, as he is known. Give our best to Michelle. Pearl, Merry Christmas. Right back at you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's grab this from Money More. Money More. Thanks for being with us tonight, Big Dog. He says the Patriots have 3 notches in the win column. That right there, 3 reasons not to underestimate them. I don't know. With how much we know, Eric, over the years, Sean Payton has venerated Bill Belichick, and for good reason. It goes beyond the fact that they're both cut from the Bill Parcells cloth. Something tells me that of all the potential, what you might call a trap game on the whole 2023 schedule, this is not one that Sean Payton would fall prey to or overlook.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's a lot of respect there. And even if they have 3 wins, it's one of those things they're going to take him seriously. And that's one thing that I like about Sean Payton. Even when he was with the Saints, you never really saw the Saints fall into trap games regularly. Every now and then, yeah. It's hard not to, but the Broncos, I mean, he's keeping them focused. Playoffs are the prize, trying to keep them playing at a high level to make that playoff push, especially after the 1-5 start. And now after losing to Detroit, every win matters. They can't afford to overlook any single team, and especially one coached by Bill Belichick.
Well said. We've got Steven jumping in. Good to see you. I assume it's Steven. That's how most people with the PH spelling spell it. But I do know 2 people who spell their name that way and go by Stefan. So it's a shot in the dark that you're Steven. Says, and thank you for the support and the comment and the conversation. If Russ gets us in the playoffs, he deserves another year. If not, his scared play hurts us. I don't care about interceptions. I care about him holding onto the ball 10 seconds or more. How do you explain it, Eric? And I'm not going to lie and pretend like I was an expert on all things Russ before he came to Denver. I didn't cover the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, I saw the games. Was I studying Russ? Not that much until he became on the Broncos' radar. But has this always been a limitation to his game, the kind of penchant for holding on to it too long? And And what can Sean Payton do to try and get him more on schedule?
It always has been. Timing and rhythm has never been a strong suit for him. It's always been those big booming plays. Pass protection starts to break out, and then he does his basically trademark spin off the left tackle and make that deep throw. I mean, that was his trademark there in Seattle for so long. He's always thrived in the situations, once the coverage starts to break down, 5 seconds after the snap, 4 seconds after the snap, and making something happen out of that. The Russell Wilson magic, that's where he made his career. And in Seattle, they balance it so well with what we're seeing in Denver. A strong rushing attack, maybe not always the most efficient rushing attack, but a pretty consistent one in terms of just, constantly just banging the rock at them, at the defenses and wearing them down to help open up for those big splash plays that you get. And only difference that we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot more reliance out of the running backs in the passing game than we got out of Russell Wilson in Seattle.
But it's a astute observation, Stephen, and it's something that you're not alone in it driving you crazy. I mean, it's like, get rid of the ball, Russ, or at least throw it away. It's not really in his nature, but let me tell you something, Eric, it was not that still doesn't explain it to me. Stefan, you got to spell it phonetically like this, dude. You got to spell it out to me. Is it like this, bro? Normally wouldn't take this much time. Is it like this? Or is it like this? Stand by. See, now check this out. Is it like this on the left? Is it option 1? Just tell us this. Is it option 1 or is it option 2? I'm seeing, yeah. Anyway, okay. So Peyton Manning, do you think it was in his nature? This is where I was going with this before I got a little distracted, to just fall down when the pressure was coming, when he knew it was no win. Do you think it was in his nature to fall down? Hell no. That's not in his nature. It looks lame and it's kind of like a capitulation, whatever. But he did it because it was best to live to fight another down. And Russell Wilson, I don't know what it is. I was hoping that Sean Payton would be able to help kind of reach him on this and kind of mitigate this. 1. Okay, so it is Stefan. Cool. So now I know 3 Stefans. Rad. But it hasn't improved, the whole holding on to the ball thing. And sometimes it pays dividends, but against well-coached, well-disciplined defenses, oh man, they can feast on quarterbacks like that.
Yeah, and my biggest issue with him isn't necessarily that he holds the ball too long. It's the fact that you can hold the ball too long, but there still has to be that point of like, nothing's happening, throw it away, and still live to fight another down that way. And that's been an issue that I've had with Russell Wilson for so long. And it goes back, and part of the most recent example is that final play against the Houston Texans, where he's trying to force it in, just throw it away, live another down. Pressure got there pretty quickly. He escaped it, extended the play. It's just one of those things that's frustrating when watching Russ, but you take it somewhat because you still get some of those magical plays of him rolling out and finding Cortland Sutton deep for the touchdown, like the Buffalo Bills, that one touchdown. Like, you still get plays like that, and it's just would like to rein it in, especially with his age and where he's at in his career. Just kind of rein it a little bit and start living to fight another down a little bit.
So get this. I'm seeing this comment from Taylor. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Belichick was a special teams assistant and defensive assistant for the Broncos back in the 78 season, which was a famous season for the Broncos, obviously. And then he ended up going to New York, becoming an assistant position coach. And then when Bill Parcells landed in New York, made him the defensive coordinator. And that's when his NFL star really began to kind of burn bright, Eric. But get this. So I was looking up a little statistic, or not I was just checking up on something that I thought I knew to be true on Bill Parcells on his wiki page. And I just learned now, Bill is not anywhere in his name. This man was born Dwayne Charles Parcells. Bill Parcells, which you're going, where does Bill come from? This is just a stupid little thing on a sleepy Christmas Friday on Dove Valley Deep Divers, but it says here that he never liked the name Dwayne. And so he decided to adopt Bill as his nickname. He
That's funny.
decided. Most nicknames, I got to tell you, I think the vast majority, Scott, not if you agree with me on this, I think the vast majority of nicknames are given to somebody, right? Like it's something your parents called you, your friends, your uncle, whatever, and it sticks. To just decide I'm going to be Bill, that's a little bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, when you choose that, it's situations like mine where, or even my dad's, where you just decide not to go by your first name and you go by a middle name instead. I've heard of that. I mean, I'm an example of that. But
Which is
picking your own
normal, and I think that's okay if
right,
that's what one of your names might
yeah,
be.
just picking your own nickname is not something that I've ever heard of. And on the whole thing with Bill Belichick being the special teams coach, he actually nerded out today um, and spent like 5 minutes answering a question about his time in Denver and dealing with 3-4 defense. I would read through it, but it is a long thing. There's a lot of cool information in there that's definitely worth checking out. If you
Yeah.
search Cody Alexander on Twitter, you could be able to find the transcripts of it.
What is it again on Twitter?
Cody Alexander.
So it's cool because when the Broncos draw the Patriots over the years, he always gets asked about his history with the Broncos, right? And most of the time, he'll be like this guy the whole time. And then you ask him about it, and he'll light up like a Christmas tree, and he'll talk about it. Every once in a while, he'll just kind of like, yeah, it was great. Next question. But he obviously connects some pretty good memories, and maybe it had a lot to do with his NFL trajectory to his 1 year spent with the Broncos. Phil, down in Tucson, this man proves that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It's a state of being, and he's saying with some stars on Facebook. Thank you, by the way, Phil. Good evening, Chad, Eric, and Deacon Scott. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Seems like every time we use Jaleel McLaughlin, the rookie running back, the other team knows it's a run. So why not use him as a decoy? MHH for life. Buckham. That's with a B, YouTube. Hashtag win out. What's your answer?
I mean, Phil, you and I we're like connected right here because I just got done talking about this a little bit ago. They got to find a way to use McLaughlin more as a decoy. I mean, 80% of his snaps on the field, he's getting the ball or being targeted. That's way too high, even for a rotational piece. If you want to take the most advantage of his speed, you got to use him as a decoy to create an opening elsewhere. Use him on some wheel routes a little bit and help create spacing and give the defense more of a challenge. Like they just got to do more and evolve how they're using him. And gotta say, one of my few issues that I have with Sean Payton this year is the lack of evolving that we've seen with this offense, especially with certain players like McLaughlin.
Yes, indeed. And Sean Payton's usually not quite so obvious. He doesn't exactly have a reputation for telegraphing what's to come. And I think it really just kind of devolves back to the caliber of quarterback play that he's getting. It does kind of limit some of his options on stuff like that. And sometimes you do kind of just have to, yeah, this is probably what we're going to do. Yep, he's on the field. Yeah, we're probably going to try and get him the ball. Donnie, very kind of you to say welcome. Thank you. Just recently started listening to this pod. Excellent content. Keep up the great work. Go Broncos. Very kind of you. Appreciate that. David's saying that his grandma gave him his nickname, I assume. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. It's a little, I think, sociopathic to give yourself a nickname. Now, I can recall not everyone loves their name. When I was a little kid, I don't know what it was because this is something I had to be reminded of and told. So it's not like this is something that stuck with me forever. I wasn't eating my heart out over this situation, but I had a great uncle. So my grandma, my mom's brother, all right, his name was Mike. And I used to get reminded all the time that I used to beg my mother to change my name to Mike. I wanted to be named Mike, like Uncle Mike, etc. I have no memory of this, but of course I didn't go around telling people to call me Mike either, Eric. So it's kind of weird. Bill Parcells, again, guys, we're not talking Belichick on this particular issue. Bill Parcells, Bill's nowhere. William is nowhere in his name. Dwayne Charles Parcells, but he wants to go buy Bills. So give the man what he wants, I guess, right? Zeus McPeak, love you, dude. Thank you. Breaking the ice for us tonight on Super Chat. Really appreciate you, big dog. There's a reason, Eric, we say this is the first face etched on the MHH Mount Rushmore. Stu McPeak, Merry Christmas right back at you. Give our best to your fam.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Stu, and everybody else. And thank you always, Stu. I mean, your support here has been since we started, basically started this all. And it's just so constant and it's so appreciative. And can't thank you enough. And hope you have a wonderful holidays.
Also, so cool to hang out with you and finally meet you in person, in the flesh, at the MHH meet and greet back in October. That was really cool. Check that one off my old bucket list. But very cool. Thank you again, buddy. And kind of a slower night like tonight really comes in handy. So thank you, buddy, helping us keep the lights on. He's saying, I'm just getting home from work, getting the weekend started, getting the festivities rolling is Stu. So good for you, brother. Chase says Belichick's going to try and shut down Cortland Sutton. Hopefully Jerry Jeudy or someone else can step up, but I have my concerns. Yeah, that's a guarantee, Eric, that I think as far as the passing concepts are concerned, they're going to double Cortland Sutton and try to take him away. What do you do to counter that? Judy's an option. And by the way, for what it's worth, Eric, Cortland Sutton is one of 3 players this season with at least 700 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. So he has that going for him, and Bill Belichick certainly sees it.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly where they're at, but the Patriots have one of the best DVOAs, specifically with shutting down number 1 receivers, which is Cortland Sutton in this case. Something they've done quite well all season long. I remember talking about this before with Nick before the Lions game, because we got a little bit ahead of ourselves and started talking about the Patriots. Jerry Jeudy is going to be a key player for this offense. The type of receiver that he is a good way to attack the Patriots defense. Hopefully he can step up, learn how to toe tap, better catch the ball instead of Gator catching it, those kinds of issues. But this offense he's going to have to be a big part of the offense in this game, I think.
Thanks again, Chase, for the comment, big dog. And yeah, you gotta go elsewhere. And that was one of the great things amongst many, Eric, of like, some of you might be too young to remember this. Many of you, like me, were around, but watching John Elway would not have his wings clipped if you took away his number 1 option. He would go elsewhere and make you pay. Peyton Manning, same thing. Jake Plummer, you go back, he was so streaky in as far as like just being a proficient passer that I don't remember him being. I mean, teams would try to take away Rod Smith for Jake Plummer, and they had that one season where he threw 1,000 yards to Ashley Lilly. Both Smith and Lilly had 1,000 yards rushing or receiving. Pardon me. For whatever reason, it's been really difficult for Russell Wilson this season to find a lot of consistency, Eric, and success throwing the ball to anyone not named Sutton. So let's see him make Belichick pay for selling out to take away Sutton.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a lot of work there from Russell and from Wilson and Jeudy. I mentioned this before, but those two and their play styles are like oil and water. Jerry Jeudy is very much a timing and rhythm receiver. Get him to a spot, throw with timing, get the ball to him, let him make something happen after the catch. Wilson's had a couple of those plays this year, but there's also been a lot of issues with it, just not something that it's in his play style. Whereas Wilson is that guy who he's going to hold the ball, he's going to scramble around and wait for coverage to break down. And Jeudy just doesn't seem to have that, play breakdown sense that you get with a lot of these other receivers, like Cortland Sutton, of working his way back to the quarterback, working his way open, following the quarterback. So it's just kind of hasn't been the most cohesive fit between receiver and quarterback here. But we've seen enough flashes that hopefully, we can get a game out of it between the two of them.
Indeed. Big Earn jumping in with his acronym. We all know what it means. Go Broncos country only. Big Earn, we love the consistency of your messaging. Rock on, dude. Love it. Scott, interesting note about your daughter and nicknames. My daughter has a weird nickname. Eric, I know your daughter's nickname. You like to call her Bug, right? So my daughter, her name is Hayden. That's the name she was born with. That's what we gave her, Hayden. But I'm like a little. I never call people by what they're called. At least not my kids. They all have their own. Many of them multiple nicknames, and so I started calling her HJ. Right? Hey HJ, like you might call my one son DJ. All right. Call her HJ. It was just a common thing. All right, cool. Then, kind of like how you'd say maybe sweetie or honey, right? I started calling her HE, which was like a weird riff off of HJ because her name starts with H. I started calling her HE. And then everyone calls her HE. Everybody now, including her teachers, her friends, it's HE, and it always throws people off because they think that's, of course, her name, and and they actually spell it weird. They go HE, AICHEE, and so it's really a weird name that when like teachers and this and that see it, they're like Akia, HE, oh HE, but yeah, I mean nicknames. Having fun tonight.
Yeah, I mean, nicknames are awesome. I won't repeat some of the nicknames I had as a kid. They're rather embarrassing. But Rosie, her actual name's Rosalie, and when she was not quite a year old for Valentine's Day, there was a shirt that was out that said "I'm a cute little rosebug" or something like that. So we started calling her Rosebug, and then it just got shortened even more to Bug, and it was funny. You know, we started homeschooling her last year, and she always had issues of her name is Rosalie or Rosie for short, and she'd always want to write Bug on her papers where they have to write her name. So we had to get that taught out of her that that's not your actual name, it's a nickname.
Have you ever seen, do you remember that movie? Eric, you might not have ever seen this. Scott will know what I'm talking about, but there was before Mike Myers really hit it big, he had that movie, So I Married an Axe Murderer. And this was making hay off of his Saturday Night Live thing back in the 90s. And then he became a bankable movie star with Wayne's World and all that stuff, and the rest is history. But that movie, So I Married an Axe Murderer, there's that scene where, he's in character. He's like, it became a famous thing later, right? Where like Eddie Murphy would put on the fat suits and like all this thing and what he did, for example, Mike Myers and Austin Powers being different characters, right? So like this is the first movie where you see him do that, and he plays, I can't remember if it's a grandpa or the dad or something. Anyway, like an old Scottish guy, and the one son or grandson's he's trying to watch TV, is the dad. And the one son will come sit right on the floor and just block it with his giant head, because he's got like, the Scottish accent, head. And so he would just call him head, right? Head, because it's so big, but the way he says it, it's funny. It's a great scene. Google it on YouTube. You'll laugh. Ronk, thank you, brother. Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for joining us. Thank you for the stars. I'm having a great show. We're having fun tonight. It's Christmas weekend, and I think we're all just kind of either taking that last relaxing after finishing up all the Christmas shopping and all that stuff, or just getting ready to go and join all the chaos that is to finish up everything for Christmas.
Mike jumping in with a very generous super chat and spreading that Christmas spirit on a Friday night. Thank you, big dog. He says, hey, gentlemen, just wanted to wish all of you guys and all of Broncos country a Merry Christmas. Go Broncos. Definitely. Thank you, my friend. Really, really appreciate the support, and Merry Christmas to you and yours. I guess people want us to talk about football. So let's get to a couple, because I got to go soon. Troy on Facebook wants to know, when I hear you fellas or others say that Russ doesn't fit Coach Payton's scheme, what does he lack? What style of quarterback do we need? Merry Christmas, dudes, with some serious stars. Thank you. Really appreciate that, Troy. The support means a lot. So for what it's worth, Eric, I don't say it like that. I don't go around saying he just doesn't fit Sean Payton. It's that it doesn't matter what scheme you put Russ in. The limitations present themselves and just pop off immediately. And one of them that we've been harping on tonight is the whole holding on to the ball thing. And knowing that, Sean Payton has tried to make the most of some of Russ's strengths, right? His ability to create when things break down, his ability to throw deep and just be that playmaker. To do that and really allow a quarterback like that, Eric, to thrive, you do have to build it off of a play pass concept where you got to stay committed to the run and build that up so that the play action is deadly and the quarterback has the space to really go out and do those type of things. But when you think back, here's the last thing that I'm serving it back to you. When you think back to all of the Peyton Breeze teams of all those years in New Orleans, that was a scheme that Peyton, of course, designed that was much more timing oriented because that was a strength of his quarterback at the time. Drew Brees was a timing quarterback. He wasn't a guy like Russ that could just run around, make guys miss, buy time and throw. He wasn't that kind of an athlete. He was a lot more Eric cerebral and limited physically, as an athlete. And so Peyton catered around him just like he's doing with this scheme. But maybe you are more of the line of thought here, Eric, that Russ doesn't fit Peyton's scheme.
There are elements of Peyton's scheme that just don't work with every single type of quarterback out there. He's doing a good job of just not, heavily relying on those with Russell Wilson and, still catering a little bit to what Russell Wilson can do to help hide some of the deficiencies that he has. One thing that has been pretty constant throughout Sean Payton's career has been timing and rhythm in the middle of the field. Those open up the sidelines a little bit, and those open up the deep shots. That's always been a big thing, part of his coaching philosophy. And Russell Wilson, we've already talked about how he has issues with timing and rhythm, and attacking middle of the field has never been a strong suit of Russell Wilson's. When you look at heat maps pretty consistently throughout his career in Seattle, and even, last year and for most of this year, you have, streaks of red down the sidelines and then a big blue circle there in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Just the middle of the field isn't a big thing about it. And we're seeing Sean Payton making it work to some degree, but the deficiencies of the quarterback are still causing issues within the offense that sometimes keep, the win from happening.
Oh yeah. Including all of the lost fumbles that Russ has from either being stripped outside the pocket, in the pocket, just as he's getting on the run, leaving the pocket, that type of thing. That's been happening a lot. And I'm sure it drives Coach Payton nuts. But there are also a lot of great things that Russ does that I'm sure Payton loves. This far into the head coach QB relationship between them, I would guess that if he could rub the genie pops out of the lamp and he gets 3 wishes, he would probably not choose Russell Wilson per se as like his number one genie, give me the perfect quarterback option. But I do think, Eric, a lot has been made over the last week that I'll echo Mike McGlinchey that's been blown out of proportion, that when we saw Peyton kind of snapping on Russ sideline Detroit, that was emblematic of his true dissatisfaction with Russ's body of work and the fact that, he doesn't want him as his quarterback. I think that's really jumping the shark and taking it to tinfoil hat territory.
Yeah, I haven't paid a whole lot to what has been said about it, just because to me it's not a super big deal. When I watched it and saw it happen, I just thought, hey, Peyton was a little upset that Russ didn't, let a little bit more time as they were trying to evaluate the play before to determine to challenge it or not. That's how I took it. Peyton was mad that they got up there, ran the play so quickly instead of giving that extra time to determine if they wanted to challenge the previous play, which probably would have made it a touchdown from what I remember. I can't remember if it was the first play or that play that was the obvious touchdown to me, but that's what it was about. It wasn't a thing of, oh, he can't stand Russell Wilson. Oh, he has all these issues with Russell Wilson. He's just letting out all this. It was just a in the moment, heat of the moment situation. He was upset with just what happened on the field, and he just kind of let Russell Wilson hear it a little bit.
Okay, guys, we're about out of time. My fault. We're not going to be able to go to the full hour, so we're going to grab this very generous question from Phil on Facebook. There's a Mike Edel super chat we're going to grab after this. And then Bama X has some really interesting things I want to grab. And then we got to go. If there's anything truly burning on your minds, definitely get it in the chat. We'll do our best. But let's get to Phil's question. 3 keys, guys, to beating New England. Eric, what is it going to take? What are the 3 priorities for the Broncos?
you got to force takeaways. I think this is the type of game with how good that defense is that you need those extra possessions. You can't leave yards on the field, and you can't shoot yourself in the foot. Those kind of go hand in hand there, meaning, you can't have Mike McFlinchy out there. You need Mike McClinchy. You can't sit there and have all these other bad penalties that are taking yards off, erasing big plays, things like that. You can't have Russell Wilson missing some of his reads and stuff, which has been an issue all season. You got to make those plays because as a defensive, if it's there, you got to take it because you don't know if you're going to get it again. And then the final key is just I don't really know of a third key because if the defense does, it gets those extra possessions for the offense and they can do what it is. I'd probably say is just don't get out coached by Bill Belichick. Don't let a team that on paper you are significantly more talented than, even though their defense is vastly outperforming the talent level that they have, just don't go out there and get out coached by one of the best coaches ever in the NFL. Which, it's a pretty obvious one, but.
So I'll just say this real quick because Eric did a great job breaking it down. I'll say, and some of this will overlap a little bit, but I'll say, make sure you got to make Belichick pay for trying to take away Sutton. You got to come up with other options. I would say, you got to, in the teeth of this Patriots defense that's going to sell out to stop the run, you got to run the ball. Well, of course, you got to try and still be as effective and efficient on the ground as you can, but find other ways to skin that cat because Bill Belichick will force you to do it. And it's a matter of when those opportunities come, take advantage of it. I echo Eric on the whole takeaways thing. If you even one or two takeaways in a game one takeaway in a game like this could actually spell the difference, but get back on that horse of taking the ball away, Vance Joseph's unit. And then lastly, just be the best when it's critical situations, third down, red zone, end of game sequences, and you'll beat this team. You will beat this team. So thank you, Phil. Really appreciate you. Mike with a second super chat. Thank you, bro. He says, at the height of Wilson's career, he had a dominant run game. We lack that. The whole we are going to run the ball, but you can't stop it kind of running game. Yeah, but he also had what was it, Scott? Well, here's Wilson's first 5 years as a pro in Seattle, right? And he was a day one, even as a rookie, third round pick, he was a day one starter. So first 5 years in Seattle, defense for the Seahawks, they're ranked in points against first, third. So that goes a long way to helping a young quarterback find his way. And then he says, by the way, Scott bringing this up too. Last 5 years, Russ was in Seattle. The best Seattle had defensively as far as points against was they ranked 11th. So, but no, that's definitely a key, Eric, to helping Wilson be the best he can be. As far as what you can control offensively is even if it's not dominant, a productive run game. And the problem with the Broncos run game this season is it has gone stretches, Eric, where it's been productive, especially during that 5-game win streak. There's an obvious correlation there, but it's been a little too streaky in that regard. It hasn't been consistent enough where a quarterback like Russ or a coach like Peyton can really sit back and hang their hat on it. So that's a nut that does have to get cracked moving forward. Even if they were to get eliminated Sunday night, which they won't, but if they were, that's a nut that has to get cracked, getting that running game going. And I do think, Eric, that it's going to take finding another running back that's a little bit more explosive and better vision than Javonte to complement Javonte, not necessarily replace him, but a different kind of change of pace.
Yeah, it's the Seattle teams. What made their running game so dominant was the efficiency of it. They were such an efficient running team that they were able to capitalize consistently off such a strong defense. So they could literally sit back, just run the ball efficiently and play defense. The Broncos don't have that. They've pounded the ball away, especially during, the 5-game win streak where the turnover margin was so ridiculous in Denver's favor because they just got all those extra possessions. Those are points taken off the board from the other team that gives you a chance to score. So they were able to sit there and rely on it, even though it was not an efficient running game. They could still pound the ball because they got an extra possession. They got to find more efficiency for that, and I think part of that is going to be cutting into Javonte Williams' snap count and touches, because I think the knee injury last year, we saw him come back. He came back. Burst was great. Vision was great. But I think that the workload has just been too much for him. And we're starting to see some regression from where he was earlier in the season. Some more Samaje Perine, some more Jaleel McLaughlin, even as a decoy. Use those guys to help, try to create an efficient running game, because the blocking, for the most part, is doing quite well.
Zeus, we love you too, big dog. Bama, we're getting you next. Eric, if you can, rapid fire this. David's had some good topics and questions. Rapid fire answer this for him. He wants to know if Penix would be a good quarterback fit, right, for the Sean Payton offense. What are your thoughts on that?
Michael Penix, I think he'd be a good fit for him with what Sean Payton wants to do. He's shown that he can work in timing and rhythm at Washington. He's shown the ability to make those deep shots as well. He's got good athleticism to work with. The biggest issue with Michael Penix during the draft process is going to be the injury history that he has and the concussions that almost caused him to retire. That's just going to be very concerning for him. And then there's also going to be a slight concern about the receivers having to adjust to a left-handed quarterback. We don't see him very often, and when we do, that is always one of the things that's talked about.
All right, last thing, guys, then we got to go. I'm going to read a few of these from Bama, some astute observations. Good to see you, by the way, big dog, and Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays. It says, I think that the primary dysfunction with Russ and Judy outside of timing is that from what I've seen pre-snap, Judy has looked confused out there numerous times prior to the snap, looking at Russ, looking at it from the quarterback perspective. If a receiver gets out there, and most of the time he has his arms up in the air when I'm making checks, I'm not going to be too comfortable going to him with the ball either, especially when you watch it when he's making checks, Russ, and Cortland Sutton is out there. I've only seen him look back at Russ 2 or 3 times in confusion in those instances versus Judy, which has been a lot. Eric, true as far as how that makes a quarterback think twice. But what are some of your analysis on this? And then we got to get going.
I mean, Jerry Jeudy has always been a guy to me when I watched him at Alabama, even earlier in his career. Effort always comes to mind. And he's been one of those guys that he's going to run his route, and that's about it. He's not going to sit there and play to get open if things break down. There's been confusion there a lot of times when, even with different quarterbacks, when the plays are being changed at the line of scrimmage, there has been pretty consistent confusion from his end. Like, he doesn't know what the audible calls are as to what he's now supposed to be doing. That obviously it's going to create a lack of trust from your quarterback, a lack of confidence in you from the quarterback. And Jerry Jeudy has that, and he doesn't help it when he's dropping passes that should be pretty easy catches, or not dragging his toe for a touchdown catch. Those on top of the pre-snap stuff, it's easy to see why Russell Wilson doesn't look his way a whole lot, especially when he is as open as he was, what was it, a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Like, it all just adds up as to why they just don't go well together.
By the way, it's Penix, right? Not Penix like Phoenix.
Yeah, it's Penix.
So Penix, in the 2 years he's been at Washington, right, as a transfer from Indiana, he is 24-2, including 13-0, 2023. So he's got some juice there. But guys, thank you so much for making this a very, very fun conversation. We kind of had took our time with it, went down the rabbit hole on some non-Bronco conversations and topics, and we appreciate y'all's indulgence and going down those rabbit holes with us. And Bama, thanks. That was a really good observation, big dog. But guys, as we dip on out of here, this is, of course, the last Dove Valley Deep Divers episode before Merry Christmas. We want to wish you a Merry Christmas. So, and any of you who may be traveling, please get there safely. And we wish you, obviously, safe travels if you're moving around this Christmas season. Connect with the show on Twitter at DVDDpod, easy to find. Connect also with Mile High Huddle on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, Eric, that I'll ever be able to just call it X. Like, it's still Twitter to me.
Yeah, I have an issue with that, but it's not one that we can get into while live. So,
hey, you like Eric so much that you want to buy one of his show's t-shirts? Guess what? Easy to do. mhhmerch.com, or get a hat like this, get a Buckham t-shirt, whatever. It all helps, and you can look super stylish out there repping your favorite pods. Connect with the main podcast account on Facebook at Mile High Huddle Pod. Thank you for helping us get that account over 10,000 followers. We love you. Also, guys, our Instagram, we've kind of been a little bit less active the last couple of weeks just with things going on with the holidays and whatnot, but this is something you're going to definitely want to follow at Mile High. At Mile_High_Huddle on Instagram. Big plans for that in 2024, so be ready. And then lastly, guys, make sure, whether your favorite show is Dove Valley Deep Divers, if it's my show, the MHH Pod, or any of the other shows, go to and find Mile High Huddle Podcast on Apple Podcasts and just leave a 5-star review. All the podcasts are under one umbrella on Apple. And so leave that, if your favorite is Dove Valley Deep Divers, leave that 5-star review. If it's building the Broncos, whatever, leave that 5-star review. The host will see it, and it enters you into a drawing at the end of each month to potentially win some MHH swag. So with that being said, the last thing we can really ask everybody to do is subscribe. Make sure you're subbed, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you're watching. Do us a super huge solid, and wherever you're at, make sure you like or heart this video. And if you really want to go the extra mile, share it out there. Help us grow and reach new Broncos fans that are out there wandering the desert just like you, that would love to be a part of this community. So with that being said, Eric, my friend, I had a blast. Thanks for the opportunity to talk football and Broncos tonight, and nicknames and Mike Myers and what were some of the other weird things. Anyway, had a blast, dude. Merry Christmas to you and yours.
yeah. Merry Christmas to you as well. And Merry Christmas to everyone in the chat watching. Thank you guys for your support. You guys have made it, wonderful year, even though it's not quite the new year yet. Hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas. Happy holiday if you celebrate something else, or a wonderful day if you don't celebrate anything. Stay safe over the weekend as well, over the holiday period. And I will see you guys next week. Again, Merry Christmas, everyone.
It's going to be a gas. For Eric, I'm Chad. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I'll see you Sunday, Christmas Eve, for the gut reaction immediately after the game. So stay tuned for that. But don't forget, also tomorrow night, you got some Orange and Blue View with Tom and Ron. So don't miss that. For Eric, I'm Chad. Love you guys.